Hello, everyone. I'm Melissa McAllister, and you're listening to The Melissa Made Show. Now, for decades, I've dedicated myself to helping women break the cycle of dieting, navigate through all the fads, and change their lives through my nutrition coaching. Now, each week, I'm going to talk about everything from deep nutrition, mindset, self-care, the ideal workout routine, tips on how and why to implement intermittent fasting in your life, my favorite recipes that are not only crowd pleasers, but they're actually healthy for you, and so much more. Now, with small and consistent changes, you can defy aging while living a happier, healthier, and more heart-filled life. I'm so excited to show you it's possible with the right strategies that are so simple to adopt. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Melissa Made Show. And if you watch the YouTube video, which I know most of you don't, I'm literally like a little girl grinning ear to ear. I feel like a stud because I know I bring you like some really big names that you guys follow on social media, and you really respect their education and their mark on this world so far with all the books they've written and everything. But then I'm like a little investigator, and I find just really interesting people. And I literally could not be more excited to dive into this interview with this man than I have any of my participants so far. I'll be dead honest. It's a field I'm not real familiar with. I had one experience with it that I will share, but I'm not real familiar with it. But it started off with, I was laying out in the sun in Mexico, and I was checking on my daughter's TikTok, and she reposted this gentleman's post, and it has like 2 million views for good reason. But I was just like, wow, that just hit me so hard. So then I went to his page, and I just told him I spent like an hour at least, probably got a little sunburnt, just could not believe what I was listening to. You guys know, and I was just telling Jim this, that I'm your gut girl. I'm helping you with intermittent fasting. I'm helping you with, your hormones and eating right and all that stuff. I'm not the pro at the mindset thing. I've kind of got the do it or don't kind of mentality, but I have never been more moved on the mindset aspect of general health and weight loss as I was with this gentleman. Profound, you guys. I'm not trying to sell you on him. You're about to find out. He is the best kept secret that TikTok has. And I'm sure he's on Instagram as well, but I loved it. So let me give him a quick introduction, and we're going to dive into this because, like I said, I'm so excited to learn about this whole thing that he does, because he's just blown me away. So anyway, his name is, Jim, I wanted to ask you, because I'm so bad at this. Is it Katsoulis or Katsoulis?
Yeah, Katsoulis.
Katsoulis. Okay.
Yep.
So thank you. Jim Katsoulis is a hypnotherapist and a weight mastery coach who specializes in helping people to live at their goal weight. So he's the creator of the program Yourself Thin System, an innovative approach that combines the power of self-hypnosis with practical strategies to create a fresh and effective path to weight mastery. So we're going to dive into his innovative methods and uncover how the right mindset can be the most powerful tool in achieving and sustaining weight loss. So let me introduce you guys to Jim, your hypnotherapist and weight mastery coach, with his expertise in that program, like I said, called Program Yourself Thin System. That's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is a mouthful.
It is a mouthful, but it has, he's blown me away. And like I said, Jim, before I have you speak about this, many years ago, I think it might've been, my husband's 51. It might've been when he turned 45. I got a comedic therapist, hypnotherapist, to come to the house, and he did this whole setup, and we had like probably 40 plus people, and he, hypnotized the audience. And Jim, you'll have to touch on this. I'm one of those people who thinks they cannot be hypnotized, because I always do the comedy ones. But he came, and he did get quite a few people that got hypnotized, and put them up on stage and had them do all of these. I have never laughed and cried so much in my life the things that he would have them do. And it was mind blowing to me, because I'm a huge introvert. You see my shirt says empathy. and they are too. And to see them come out of their shell and to be the most, extroverted, funny people I've ever seen in my life, it was so memorable. So by listening to you and your TikTok, I was just like, you never think, at least I don't, to think to use this skill toward helping people, reach, a good mindset and a healthy weight. And so, first and foremost, thank you so much for agreeing to be on this. You guys, I want you to know, most people come to me on my podcast. They come to me and ask me to be on it. I can count on one hand how many people I've invited. And this is one gentleman that I was like, hello, you don't know me, but I really want you to be on my podcast. And he agreed to it. So thank you so much for being on the show, not knowing who I am, and trusting me. Can you first just start sharing with the audience how you got into this field?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks for having me. I love being able to share this, and what you've done is really amazing. So it's cool to be invited on here. Yeah, how I got on here. I mean, kind of the quick story, I guess, is it really started like when I was 9. That's when my dad died at 54 of a heart attack, and so I always start there because I remember even at 9, I realized, part of the reason he died is he was overweight, not morbidly obese, but obese, and unhealthy life. And I knew even then, I was like, I'm never going to let that happen to me, because it was the most painful thing that ever happened. And my brother, it was awful. And so 10 years later, I was 50 pounds heavier than I am now, right? So I'm 50 pounds overweight. I was binge drinking, just out of control. And so this is a true story too, by the way. I took a semester off from college. I was in a tough spot. And I swear to you, within about a month, I was exposed to personal development, Tony Robbins, hypnosis, neurolinguistic programming, yoga, meditation, guitar, martial arts. I'm not even kidding. Holy. And I grasped onto them. I was obsessed with them. And that kind of is what led me into this. And it's funny you mentioned a hypnotist who saw your house. So I was going back to school the next semester. And it was a business school, and they had a hypnotist there, but he wasn't like a comedic hypnotist. He was doing like a demonstration sort of, and it blew me away, and that just even furthered my desire to want to learn hypnosis, that there was more there than just the comedy stuff, And I got obsessed with it. It's funny too, because I ended up getting a degree in finance and investments, but I spent the last 2 years of my college just obsessed with this stuff. I dropped the 50 pounds. I got healthier and really started to transform myself from the inside out, using these techniques. And so, I did that stuff for a couple of years, and I ultimately got, certified as a master hypnotist, neurolinguistic programming trainer, yoga instructor, strategic coach. So I'm just obsessed with these things. And so last 20 years, I've been doing that professionally. I've done over 5,000 private weight loss sessions. So as I say to people, like my path's unique. And like what you were saying in the beginning is the norm. Most people in weight loss industry are kind of telling you what to do. Like you could sit here and tell me the best thing to do, but very few people are helping you to get yourself to do that thing, Mm-hmm. And so it's to me, it's a huge void in the weight loss industry, is that everyone's telling you what to do, and there's very few people showing you how to get yourself to do it. And I think that's really what makes this approach kind of unique, is that's all I focus on, is really how to get yourself to do the things you should do and want to do, to get those results.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, because in the 20, near 30 years that I've been in this industry, I know people are smart, and I know deep down inside, they know exactly what to do.
Right.
And they are to want to, think it's the hormones, or think it could be the gut, when we always go to lifestyle first, because, are you eating healthy? Are you really moving enough? And all that kind of stuff. But even when I really, truly feel like they know exactly what to do, there's still that huge struggle of sticking to it, because anything that's going to show results is going to be consistency, and the consistency is hard. So what do you feel are kind of the biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to starting to lose weight?
Yeah. I think that the big one that I always look at, and I think we take a step back and realize that the reason people think this way. So anything I'm saying here, it's not, I don't want to sound aggressive towards anyone who's stuck in this. I don't blame people. I think we're all at the mercy of the diet industry to some degree. We've all been exposed to millions of diet ads in our lives, and it's always that before and after picture and how long it takes to go from one to the other. And so what happens to people is when they think about weight loss, is subconsciously they think of it as a temporary thing. They say, I'm going to do this thing until I lose the weight. And so they think of it with a short-term time frame. And as soon as you think of it as a temporary short-term thing, well, the next question is, well, if it's going to be short term, let's just get it over as quick as possible. So give me the extreme plan. I'll do it. I can do anything for a little while. And so they start to approach their weight loss like it's a sprint. And if you run a sprint and you trip a little bit, you're going to lose the race. The only thing that wins a sprint is perfection. And so any little mistake feels catastrophic. And so this is why you see why people struggle with consistency is they overwhelm themselves too quick. But then B, as soon as they make a mistake, it feels like they totally blew it. And so you need to start looking at this as a forever thing. Because I always say to people, how long you want to keep the weight off for? Well, forever, right? But their approach really is about how quick it can be. And so like I always say, like most people are about how fast can I lose the weight? And I'm always about how long can you keep it off for? How can you live at your goal weight? And that distinction is crucial because what happens as soon as you start thinking long-term, it's not about the fastest, most extreme way. It's about the most sustainable way, and I think that originally sets it up. It's a different path. So I always say, forget weight loss because you don't want to lose weight. Everyone's lost weight and then put it back on. You're not happy you lost the weight. You're mad that you put it back on. So you don't want to lose weight. You want to get to your goal weight and you want to live the rest of your life at your goal weight on near autopilot. That's the specific goal you want. In your subconscious mind, you need to be very literal about what you want, because a lot of people stuck in this, they got that mantra, I just want to lose weight. I just want to lose weight. Okay, well, you lost the weight. What do you do now? You put it back on and lose it again. You know what I mean? You just keep repeating that cycle. So you want to be very specific and start saying and upgrade that goal to, I want to get to my goal weight and live the rest of my life at my goal weight on near autopilot. That sets you up on a completely different path right from the start. So I think that's the first step to really getting better results.
Yeah. And so I noticed, we all know TikTok is full of talkers. Very, it's a tough crowd. And I noticed not too long ago, it felt to me like you were defending the fact that you were saying that you want to be thin. And I'm assuming that people were giving you pushback on using the word thin. And you had a great kind of rebuttal to that, or a reasoning explanation for that. Can you kind of share that?
Yeah, I could talk about this all day and I never get to because I just don't. But I will say, so I've been doing this for 20 years, 30 years personally, 20 years professionally. And I have worked like 20 years. My head has been in the space of helping usually professionals who are overweight and tried everything they can to lose weight. That's what I've been doing. And so it's been about a year or so I've been on TikTok and some social media stuff. And it's so crazy, like what words can mean to different people. But so that all of a sudden my not normal audience is hearing these words and these things, it's taken in a completely different context. So, when I say, like, I'll give you one, like it is a cornerstone of my program, and I've been saying this forever, is that nothing tastes as good as thin and healthy feels. And so, listen, that's an anorexic saying that they used for a long time. And so it's one of these, it wasn't thin and healthy, it was just thin, or nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. I think Kate Moss said it. So they'll say this stuff to me, which I can understand it. So I've got empathy for it to some degree. But on the flip side, we live in a country where 82% of the population is overweight or obese, where, the number one cause of preventable death is weight related. And so I get what they're saying in one sense, but to me, wanting to be thin and healthy it's the cornerstone of what I want to be. And it's the craziest thing in the world to me that I'll get attacked if I say that. If I say I want to be thin and healthy, we live in such a bizarro world where it's like, if I say that, and they know, again, I get it. If you hear that phrase and you get caught up on it, but there's a lot of context to what I'm saying. And so whatever, it is what it is, but it's that crazy that when people wonder why they can't lose weight, we live in a society where if I say I want to be thin and healthy, I might get attacked. It's a crazy world out there. You know what I mean? And so, but anyways, yeah. So I'm glad you said that. Cause people always, not always, it's a small group of people, but it's a weird thing to get attacked for. I'll say, cause obviously I'm not talking about being thin and unhealthy. I'm not talking about being anorexic in any way. I'm talking about being thin and healthy. And by the way, just since you asked this, my definition of thin is you being at the weight you want to live at. And so for me, it's like, I want you to be able to, because people never even think about this concept. Imagine just going through life and you weigh exactly what you want to weigh and you're happy there and you have it mastered, because now you can go and spend all that energy that you're worrying about your weight, food, losing weight, and you can go live your life. You can focus on your family, your friends, your business, whatever you want to do. And so that's my definition of thin. And it's living at your goal weight. And what's your goal weight? The goal weight should be the weight that gives you the best quality of life. It's not just a number on a scale. It's not the BMI chart. It's you picking a weight that gives you the best quality of life. And in order to get there, you can't just pick a number. You've got to pick how you want to live, because a lot of people put their weight as if it lives in a vacuum. And so, I weighed that when I was 18, or, before I got married, that's what I weighed. It's like, you have to take into account what you're going to have to do to achieve that weight. You know, if you're picking a weight where you got to drink water and eat carrots, that's a shitty quality of life. And you're not going to do that. That's why people aren't doing their plans. They don't want to do them. And so the weight doesn't just magically fix everything. So good. So I just want to unpack that word thin, because I know it is a little bit of a triggering word sometimes. But for me, I mean, thin and healthy, you being at the goal weight that you choose, that gives you the best quality of life.
Yeah. And I wholeheartedly believe that, because when I have clients come to me, honestly, the first thing they ever mention, they're trying to lose weight. And they'll always tell me their fitness program or their exercise routine that they're doing. They don't even really take into consideration their diet, you know, how they're eating on a daily basis. And then you even were mentioning the 8, which I'd love for you to talk about, the 8 things, the lifestyle. So I was listening to that and I was going, we have a lot in common. I always share that with, you know, my following, as well as, you know, first and foremost, we really can't look at exercise as a means of weight loss. And number 2 is to really, really just, what do you consider healthy? Because there's a lot of bad advice out there.
Sure.
And then thirdly, like the 8 points that you bring up, which are outside of how you're eating. Are you really taking into consideration these things outside of how you're eating, which play a huge role in you being able to lose weight and maintain that weight? It's not, your diet is not different than how you live. And so can you share those 8 things?
Yeah, sure. So before I do, like, I want to put it in context. I always talk about a weight mastery pyramid, just to give more context to why people are struggling. So the weight mastery pyramid, in order of importance, the bottom level is mindset. I don't think anything changes without having the right mindset. Then there's lifestyle, though. And then at the top is the eating. And I find what most people do is they just try and change the eating or the exercising.
Agreed.
And that's it. And it's like, without changing these deeper levels, it's always a struggle. So the lifestyle specifically, and again, I find a lot of times lifestyle and mindset specifically become buzzwords. And a lot of times people say mindset really is just another word for willpower. And lifestyle, what's that mean? It's just kind of this vague idea. So for me, I always say 8 things. And in order of importance: proper sleep, hydration, relaxation, breathing, nourishment, movement, meditation, gratitude. And if you can start weaving these into your life, they help you to eat better. I always say, especially if you're dealing with like menopause, insulin resistance, hormonal issues, thyroid issues, any sort of physical issue that's had a negative impact on your weight, I feel like the lifestyle is absolutely crucial. It's crucial for everyone. But what happens here is, when you create a healthy lifestyle, is it starts to positively impact all those same factors: your metabolism, your hunger, your mood, your energy levels, your quality of thought. All of these things people don't take into account. They just assume they're always going to be starving. They're always going to be craving unhealthy foods. They're always going to be in a bad mood. They're always going to be tired, and they're just going to have to magically fight against it. And so this is a more strategic, preventative approach. And so I always say, like, you know, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of willpower. Instead of putting all that willpower into fighting against yourself, put that willpower into creating a lifestyle that reduces the unhealthy cravings, that lowers your hunger, that increases your satiety, that sets you up for success. Most people are drastically not set up for success at all with their lifestyles. It's crazy. I mean, the sleep, just right down the line, all of those things are dramatically impacting your metabolism and your ability to eat the right way to live at the weight you want. And so I think it's got to be, I mean, we all see it, right? There's people just want to either focus on the exercising or the eating. We've been conditioned to think that way, but a more holistic, comprehensive approach, I think, is necessary, right? Every successful person seems to have that to some degree. Right?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You can't, I always say, you want to create new habits, but you cannot create new habits without breaking some old habits first.
Of course, sure.
New habits are going to have to take the place of something. And if you're trying to crowd everything into the same space, you're going to feel overwhelmed. So it's working on what you take out along with what you're bringing in. So before our call, I did your lose weight in November little hypnosis.
Oh, yeah.
Number one, that was so relaxing. I'm just in here going, I mean, you have an amazing voice.
Thank you.
Period. But so relaxing in and of itself too. And so I just want to ask you, on a personal basis, when you do something like that, of course my mind kept racing, because I'm like, I want to ask him that question, and I want to bring this up. It's hard for me to get really, really deep into it. But when it comes to hypnosis, do you have to like go completely under, or almost feel like, because you counted, back to bring people that I assume, had gotten in that space, to bring them back to the real world. Hello. Yeah. You have to get there in order to reap the benefits of what you said, or me listening to it, but still not feeling like I was fully immersed into it? Do I still benefit from that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of benefits to hypnosis. I don't think hypnosis is enough to make you lose weight long term. I think it's definitely I've sold sessions and programs where just hypnosis and they've worked for people, but consistently they're not getting them the results they want. We'll probably get into this, but I think that the thing you have got to do is you have got to learn how to program your own subconscious mind. So it's really I call it self-hypnotic programming is kind of the phrase I use for what I'm doing. But so the hypnosis itself, though, so that's a big part of my program. My program is 8 weeks. So every day it's delivered through the phone. Every day you start with a 5-minute hypnosis session. Each one's different. Each one has a different weight loss mantra in it. But there's so many benefits to hypnosis. And the biggest one of all of them probably is that you're practicing being more calm and relaxed. Because when you're more calm and relaxed, let's talk a little bit of your nervous system. Most people are stressed out. And what's going on is you got two automatic nervous systems, your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight, flight, or freeze, and your parasympathetic nervous system. So most people are walking around pretty overwhelmed and stressed out. And when you're in that state, that's your sympathetic fight, flight, or freeze state. Now think about this, right? When you're fight, flight, or freeze mode, the blood goes from your brain down to your muscles so that you can fight, flight, or freeze. It's a very impulsive, reactive state. And so if you're consistently in a stressed out state, it's going to be really difficult to consistently make new healthy food choices that are going to help you lose weight, right? Because this thing. So it's important that one of the easiest ways, like if I could change one thing in a person, if I could calm them down, that alone is probably going to help them lose weight more than almost anything else, right? Because everyone knows what they should and shouldn't eat. If you were a robot and you just typed in what you're going to eat all day and then you did that, most people wouldn't have any problem losing weight. The problem is they know what to eat. It gets time to do it, and I can't do it, So relaxing and being more calm is probably one of the most helpful things of hypnosis. I learned this when I first opened my office. It was amazing because people come in, they're like, I haven't felt this relaxed my whole life. So that was real insightful to me because I've been doing yoga too. And I was like, wow, this is faster than the yoga. So feeling relaxed and calm is really important, I think, because then what happens, you activate your parasympathetic nervous system, the blood goes back up to your brain and you can think more with more perspective. You're more clear-headed, you make better choices, you're more connected to your goals. So that alone helps you make better choices. The second piece is what you're hearing. You're not typically in America here, most societies, you're not getting positive, messages consistently about relaxing, about, you're great, you're going to succeed, you want to eat healthy, you feel better when you do. You're not hearing these messages, you're hearing the opposite. And so understand it this way, right? Every commercial you see is a hypnosis session, a little mini hypnosis session. They're not trying to logically explain why you should do the product. They're trying to link up emotion with their product, link them together. And with the food, it's always about craving it. And so when you're hearing that, you don't have to be in a deep trance to be influenced by a commercial. So when you relax and calm down and you hear positive messages, they kind of work together because the more relaxed and calm you are, the more you kind of internalize it sometimes. But even if you're not in a deep, deep hypnotic state, you're still getting these positive messages. And a lot of times they'll stick with you. And that's how they're designed. One or two things will kind of stick with you. And that's the point. But we don't want to rely on one session. It's really, again, it's the accumulation. It's not one commercial you see. It's the fact that you saw it. You watched TV for 2 hours, you saw a commercial 10 times. You know what I mean? It's the repetition. It's, consistently putting that message in your head, which creates neural networks, and then you just activate them. But so that's what we're looking to do with the hypnosis. So yeah, even listening to that, even if you're not in the deepest state of hypnosis, it is still really valuable to get those messages in and for you to calm and relax at least more than you were. Both of those are going to support your weight loss.
So are there people that can't get hypnotized, or can everybody at some level eventually?
Yeah. That's a super duper question. So there's kind of two types of hypnosis, right? And what most people think is like a hypnotist, someone getting hypnotized, right? So in that setting, it more comes down to like the person's personality, right? Yeah. They may be distrustful. They might not, they're nervous. They don't believe in it, whatever, and they'll resist it. We can all resist hypnosis in that setting, but every single one of us gets hypnotized constantly. Every time you go to the movies or watch a TV show, you're in a state of hypnosis, right? If you think about it, you're in this physically calm, relaxed state. And what are you doing? You're watching light on a screen, sound coming in your ears, and you're using your imagination to vicariously live in that experience, right? So if you're sitting at home, safe as can be, but you're watching a horror movie, Well,
Yeah.
what are you doing? You're having a tense reaction. If you watch a comedy, you're laughing. If
Yeah.
you watch a drama, you might be sad. Now, why? You're just watching light on a screen and sound waves coming into your ear. None of it's real, but your
Mhm.
imagination makes it real, and it makes a real physiological response, which is
Yeah.
crazy, right? Now we go back to commercials again. When you watch food all the time, you know what I mean? That's triggering hunger and all the rest of it. But so we hypnosis is the way of our brain and nervous system. We're not just living in reality; we live in our imagination. And so when it comes to weight, most people imagine themselves being overweight. They identify as an overweight person. That's their identity. That's what they know about themselves. That's what they've lived their whole life sometimes. And so
Mhm.
they're constantly imagining themselves as an overweight person, and they're literally seeing the world as that version of themselves. And so a big part of where hypnosis really gets powerful, that's why I like teaching self-hypnosis, because the barriers go down. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
the greatest hypnotist in the world, or the worst hypnotist, is that voice in your own head.
Yeah.
You know how you're always talking to yourself.
Oh
So
yes.
that we are always hypnotizing ourselves by what we're saying to ourselves, what we're imagining. But the process of hypnosis, the way I look at it, is really that you're using your imagination to influence your subconscious mind and your nervous system. And again, you do this every time you watch a movie. You know, you're not like watching a movie being like, this isn't real. That's just light on a screen. Those are just actors. They're just reading a script. No, this is real, everyone. We're just sitting in a dark room. You're not saying that, right? You allow yourself to vicariously imagine the scenario through your imagination. So it's extremely powerful way to program your subconscious mind and your nervous system to do what you want it to do. But no one ever really uses it this way. So
Yeah.
it's not the goofy shit with the hypnosis shows and clucking like chickens. It's literally you are already hypnotizing yourself all day and night with what you're saying to yourself. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, what you're saying to yourself weight wise is usually very negative and anxiety inducing and
Mhm.
stressful. And so that's the main thing that I like to help people with is if you can get control of that, that's where everything changes dramatically.
Yeah, that's what one of the many things I took away from your little mini sessions that you have on your TikTok is you say the most powerful and positive things. And one that I've stolen from you. I
Sure,
should
go
have
ahead.
been with my clients. You telling people to imagine that they're at the weight that they want to be, and they wake up and they're in the body that they want to have, and they're putting on the clothes that they want to wear. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. I mean,
Yeah.
even right now, that just gives me such a feeling. I can't. Every woman needs to think about that kind of stuff.
Of
So
course.
you mentioned your program that there's that 5 minute meditation or the hypnosis session in the morning. Because I'm thinking I need to get this program. What not to lose weight, people don't get on me. I know I don't need to lose weight, but I would assume it would just help keep you at a healthy weight too, to stay in that mindset of I need to continue to, especially during the holidays,
Sure, sure.
to pick better foods and to, think of myself as, valuable, and I need to take good care of myself, especially, almost nearing 50. So besides the little 5 minute things that you do, anything else that the program has that
Yeah.
helps?
Yeah. The core of the program, the real core of it is what I call the program yourself thin technique, which is really actually two techniques. And this is, it's a 1 to 2 minute self-hypnosis technique where it's the redo technique and the rehearsal technique. And
Hmm.
so the redo technique, this is so important because again, no hypnotist can do this for you. You live in your own environment. And so you need to learn what are your triggers. So again, what makes this so different right from the beginning from most weight loss plans is that most weight loss plans, you're starting day one being perfect, right? You're going to be perfect and you ride that perfection out until you lose the weight, right? Never works that way, but okay, that's the plan. Fine. Program yourself thin, just do what you normally do. But what's going to be different is at night, we're going to learn from whatever mistake you made. Oh, I ate a bag of cookies, I didn't want to do that. Okay, great. Let's learn from that.
I love
And
that.
so we learn from that. And then we do the rehearsal techniques, just like what you said, where you imagine yourself as the person you want to be. And, to your point about the program, one of the things I always say is that you want to take your weight loss and wrap it in personal development. I find for the vast majority of people, weight loss motivation in and of itself is not enough motivation. We evolved in food scarce environment where all of our neural structures, our senses, our biology and chemistry is built to get us to eat as much as possible. Like never in the world did we want to lose weight until about 50 years ago. You know what I mean? That wasn't even a problem. And
Right.
so there's not a lot of intrinsic motivation for you to want to lose weight. It just doesn't exist. You try and make it with your prefrontal cortex. You understand now in reality, I want to look better and all the rest of it, but it's a very mild motivation. You
Mhm.
wanting to be the best version of yourself possible, that's a strong motivation. And if you focus on being the best version of yourself possible, the weight's one piece of that. but there's all these other benefits. There's you going through the holidays, not eating well because you want to not lose weight, eating well because I feel better. This is the best I can enjoy the holidays. I feel good. I'm having some wine here. I'll eat this different stuff, but I'm doing it moderately. And it feels balanced. It feels good. And so that's kind of what we orient to, because the scale just doesn't mean anything to your mind. There's no scales evolutionary. There's no scales. There's no mirrors. There's no pictures. That just doesn't mean anything. We try and make it all mean that now. Every diet that I was just referencing is referencing a superficial image, right? So everyone's motivation to lose weight, I want to look better. That's fine. You can want to look better, but how about you want to live longer? How about you want to have the greatest quality of life you can possibly have? And I think that's what keeps me motivated personally, because that's another piece. For a lot of people, the motivation, when it comes to weight loss, they trade the pleasure of the food for the pleasure of the scale going down. And as long as the scale's going down, they're pretty motivated and focused. But as soon as the scale stops going down, now they don't get the pleasure of the scale going down, they don't have the pleasure of the food. They're like, well, where's my pleasure coming from? And I can tell you, for me, the pleasure is I love walking this path. I love feeling good. I love optimizing my eating. I love optimizing my lifestyle. I can't believe, like, where I was 5 years ago, where I'm at now, I can't believe it. Where I was 30 years ago. So it's like all this curiosity and progress and excitement of just becoming the better version. What the hell's possible? You know what I mean? And that's driving me, which gets me to a core point that, with most people with dieting, when they look at it, they're basically saying, well, the food's really pleasurable, and in order to get to my goal, I need to get rid of the pleasure. It's kind of the no pain, no gain thing. And our brains aren't wired that way. Your brain is a pleasure-seeking mechanism. It wants pleasure. This is why you've had struggles with the food in the past. You know you don't want to eat it, but the food's pleasurable. So I think what we have to do, kind of building on what I was talking about, the personal development, we need to figure out something that's more pleasurable than the food. And there's a question I often ask people. I say, listen, if a magic genie showed up in front of you and said, I'll give you the most delicious meal you've ever had in your life, or you can wake up tomorrow morning at your goal weight, which would you choose? Right? Most people say, well, I take the weight because it's right then. You see, so the time gets in our way. The time gets in our way of our motivation. So the rehearsal technique you were just referencing of imagining yourself tomorrow at the weight you want to be is a way for us to shrink that time and connect into that feeling of what it's like to live as that version of ourselves. Because what most people are going to find is when they really clarify and connect to what it's like to live as the best version of themselves, it's tremendously more pleasurable than any food. Which brings me back to the mantra that nothing tastes as good as thin and healthy feels. I believe this to my bones, and so I love food too, but the most pleasure I can possibly get out of food, in my opinion, is when I eat it at my goal weight. There's no shame, there's no guilt, there's none of that bullshit. And so that to me, so I'm always after pleasure. And most dieters subconsciously, they want it to be hard. They want it to be miserable because they associate the harder it is, the faster the results are going to be. Back to that fasting again. The impatience. So anyways, that's a long answer to your question, but so the reader rehearsal technique is really the cornerstone of it, because you do that to yourself too. And it's really important that you do that way, because most of your behavior is triggered by environmental cues that you're unaware of, right? If you look at your behaviors, especially the unhealthy ones, you're going to notice that there's a pattern to them. They happen at certain times. Typically it's happening at night. You're eating too much at dinner. You're snacking in the afternoon. You're not just randomly like overeating at breakfast. And then the next day it's overeating. There's a pattern to it. And so it's triggering this as environmental cues, time, location, people, your mood, and it's triggering into these behaviors. And so you need to be able to have a process to recognize what the triggers are, and then to program yourself to have new responses to those triggers. And that's what we practice. And so when you take control of that process, that's the secret. There's no person out there that can do that for you. I haven't seen. I do everything I can. Again, in the program, there's over 75 hypnosis sessions. So I give you a lot of them. There's a lot to choose from, but ultimately it's got to come down to you understanding your own behavior. I've never seen a shortcut that doesn't involve that. You need that piece of it.
Yeah, 100%. I man, ditto. So much justice to that. So in the way that you teach others, and something that especially during this time of year, there's a lot of people that, like you said, you can lose weight in November. Thanksgiving is just one day. I mean,
right.
Obvious as that, but at the same time, something that we don't say to ourselves that make us think, because I was talking to my daughter, who's also a nutritionist, and she had a client that wants help losing weight. And she said, but Thanksgiving's coming up. Should I wait until after Thanksgiving to start implementing this? And I'm like, no, it's a long time away and it's just one day. But people will and will mess up. So when somebody kind of falls off the bandwagon, what is your approach to helping them, get back on and feel like they haven't failed? They just maybe hit a stumbling block.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the first thing I do is I'll take a step back and what's the frame around the weight loss plan? And for most people, it's all or nothing, right?
Yeah.
They're doing nothing and then they're doing everything perfect and there's no middle ground. So program yourself in is really an all or something approach. And so instead of just having one level you can go to, and especially on the holidays, I think this is really important because my eating won't be as clean in December as it is in March. You know what I mean? Like that's just how it is. And I'm fine with that. Again, I've engineered that in. And so it feels good. But so all or something is a much different approach because for most people, it's like they're at nothing and they want to make the huge leap up to being perfect. Right. And that's huge. And that's hard to do and stick with it. Especially like people like, oh, I struggle with consistency. Well, do you struggle with consistency or do you struggle with a shitty plan where you're just trying to do everything perfect on day one?
True.
Right.
Yeah.
And so instead it's like, okay, if you want to do all, great. But if you don't want to do all, how about you just do something? And this is a real game changer because this is how you start to change your self-image and you start to really create this new identity for yourself. Because what most people are doing, your normal natural way of acting is, it's on autopilot, right? You just kind of naturally and automatically eat the way you eat. And if you've been overweight, your natural intuitions are to eat as an overweight person. And then they get their diet mindset. And they fight against that for a little while. But most people are kind of stuck with two mindsets, overweight mindset, diet mindset. And sometimes they'll stick with the diet mindset for a while and then they lose the weight. And they're like, okay, what do I do now? I can't think like an overweight person again. I can't keep thinking like a dieter. Right. Usually I put the weight back on 82 to 95% of the time with the weight back on. But very rarely is someone thinking, how do I think like a thin and healthy person? No one's ever asking that question. So if we apply that to the holidays, how do I think like a thin, healthy person in the holidays? I think it's a nice spot because it brings you that middle ground that no one ever thinks in. And I think where you go, and I call it holiday eating, vacation and holiday eating are things, they're concepts I have because you need some concept. You can't have, I'm just not going to think about it. I'll catch me on January 1st, or I'm going to be real strict through the holidays. I'll get through the holidays and be pissed off that I ruined my holidays by not enjoying myself. And then I'll binge for the next year. Those are the patterns I see. So we want to have a middle ground where we eat the foods. We're not eating as clean as we normally do, but we're not going wild, right? We call it minimizing the damage. And so it's like, we're going to enjoy ourselves, but we're not going wild with it. And we're still maintaining, again, usually in this place, it's one of the lifestyle habits and some of the core eating habits. We're still doing those things, So again, we can have a little bit of flexibility, which is, a word most people don't associate with dieting because it's so strict. But who the hell wants to be keto hardcore during the holidays? Or sugar-free or 1,200 calories. Again, that's the quality of life piece is in the trash. You're not going to do it. You're just not going to do it. And I don't blame you because it's just shitty quality of life. So I'm sitting here in front of you mastering my weight and I will eat cookies during the holidays. I'll drink wine. I'll do this stuff. I will do it moderately, because I've worked on it. And then, when January comes around, I will get more clean again. You know what I mean? But I kind of build that into the thing. So that's what I say to people the holidays is if you can walk that middle ground, which I know is a hard thing to say just right off the bat, but I think that's what's ultimately going to get the best results. And again, I'm talking long-term.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's another key piece is, again, thinking longer term with it.
Long-term. So I don't know, if you have an opinion on this, I should say, and if maybe your program can help with this, because in my years of experience, I've learned, and my following knows probably what I'm about to say, is there are really two types of people that can moderate and people that have to abstain. And maybe it's people that are incredibly addicted to sugar or could be alcohol or anything of that nature. And so if they're going to go to parties or they're going to indulge a little bit more during the holidays, they find themselves really overdoing it and having no self-control. And they're better off actually walking into a party saying, I'm just going to avoid the sugar altogether because I can't do it in moderation. Do you agree that there are two people like that? And, or do you feel like your program can help people learn to be better at moderation or even being intuitive because they've got this positive self-talk in their head?
Yeah. I think both those things are true. There's absolutely people that are like addicted to foods and substances, like addictive. They can't control it, can't moderate. There's no doubt. However, I think it's way less than people think.
8-hour abs. That sounds like a dream, right? What if I told you you could work on those abs while you dream? It's not too good to be true, I promise. It's something I discovered almost accidentally, that gives you incredible results with minimal effort. The idea behind this is actually in what you're not doing. By giving your digestion time to rest, you allow your body to tap into its fat stores, hence working on that six-pack while you sleep. All you have to do is eat within an 8-hour window and leave the rest up to your body. I wrote the 8-Hour Abs Diet back in 2014 to help people learn about the importance of meal timing. Intermittent fasting has been a huge part in helping me stay in the shape that I am. For me, intermittent fasting means eating in an 8-hour window, and I'll give you my insight on it in this free ebook. With proper meal timing, you will not only look better, but you're going to feel better too. So learn more by visiting melissamadeonline.com/ebooks and get your free copy of the 8-Hour Abs Diet today.
Now, I have a bias because I get people all the time from Overeaters Anonymous, Bright Lines, which are very, very strict abstinence models, right? Where it's like, no sugar, no flour. And I can't tell you the number of people, it's both of those, but especially Bright Lines, because I got the quiz you take, and it's how addicted are you to food? But people go into that pre-framed. Oh yeah, I'm addicted to food. That's the problem, and so, I can't tell you the number of people I worked with. I scored a 9 on that. I'm not addicted to food though, after we've worked together. So that's that's something you've got to figure out. And I am a person. So I was mentioning, like, I had an issue with alcohol, binge drinking. And at the time I was like, I got to get a handle on this. The alcoholic thing didn't work for me. I didn't feel it in my gut. Even though some people are saying that's that, I just didn't feel it. And so, I'm coming at you as a person that can moderate, wasn't able to, and learned how to moderate. So I got a bias that I tend to think people could probably get better at it. I don't know how much better, but certainly what's going to make you better at being able to moderate? Certainly it's being more relaxed and calm. Not, like, we got to take, people think, let's just talk about this for a second. Like willpower, for example. People tend to think like mental things, willpower, they almost think of them as non-physical things. Like a soul or something, like there's just this endless supply of willpower that I can just tap into. And if I was a stronger, better person, I would tap into it more, right? But your willpower is literally just a physical process. It's a prefrontal cortex process. It's one of the most energy intensive parts of your brain, okay? It uses glucose. So if you ran a marathon, you're going to be tired because you use up all the glucose in your body. If you think a lot and control your behavior a lot, you're going to use up lots of glucose and you're going to be tired. So your willpower is a literal muscle. All right. And so the more stressed we are, the less glucose we have in our body, the more we're using our willpower and the faster we burn through it. Yeah. And if we go to a party and we're telling ourselves the whole time, I hope I don't eat a cookie. I better not eat a cookie. If I eat a cookie, I'm going to eat all of them. I'm going to eat all, and we go and eat the cookie, then we eat all the cookies. You know what I mean? So some of that's stress, some of that's pre-programming, there's a lot to it. And so again, I can't say, I'm not saying I can take every single person and make them be able to moderate, because that wouldn't be true. But I could say, my experience is most people that thought they were addicted to sugar, flour, I don't work so much with the alcohol specifically, but even with the alcohol, when they start to calm down, when they pre-program themselves for success. So let's just take that person who's scared to go to a holiday party because if they eat one cookie, they eat 1,000 of them, right? Because that becomes the programming they're telling themselves is all or nothing. I either have to eat none of them or I'm going to eat all of them. When are they ever saying, what would I like to do? I'd like to go there and... Because again, what people do is just think of the cookie. But if you're not going to eat all the cookies, what are you going to do? Maybe you're going to connect with people. Maybe you'll have more fun talking with people. You'll walk around. I don't know. However you want to do it. Very rarely do people think about how they want to go to the party. They tend to think about what they tend to do and try and stop themselves from doing it. This brings up a good point. I don't know how we got here, but let me just share this because I think this is fascinating. How most people try to lose weight and how to stop doing most things is they'll say, I can't eat the cookies. I'm going to I can't eat any cookies. This is bad news for your subconscious mind because your subconscious mind does not understand negatives. Right. So if I tell you not to think, I want you not to think about what I'm about to say. Do not think about a banana. Don't think about a banana. Don't think about a banana, right? I told you not to think about it. What are you thinking about?
Nothing.
Banana.
Yep.
Right. So it's like with the diets, and especially the more addicted we are to food. And again, I'm not saying that there aren't some physical things that are underpinning some of this, but there's absolutely a mental component too. And if you're obsessively thinking, I can't eat cookies, I can't eat cookies, I can't eat cookies, you are literally thinking about cookies all day. And now we go back to what I was saying earlier about your subconscious mind can't tell the difference between vivid imagination and reality. This is why we go to movies. You don't go to movies That's why you prefer movies over books, because it's easier to imagine, what you're watching. It's easier. And you have a reaction to whatever you're watching. So if you're constantly saying, I can't eat cookies, I can't eat those chocolate chip cookies, I can't eat those fresh baked chocolate chip cookies they serve at this party, I can't eat those fresh your mouth starts salivating, you start craving the cookies, right? I can't think of any clearer example of hypnosis than that, right? And so then you eat the cookie and say, God damn it, I didn't want to eat the cookie. Well, yeah, maybe, but that was a horrible strategy if that was the plan. And so what's the alternative to that? Okay, well, I'd like to go to the party, and I'm going to go in with a medium level of hunger. And program yourself, then we learn how to manage our hunger, not just starve ourselves, right? So I'm going to go in with a level 5, 6 of hunger. I'm going to drink a glass of water before I even go there. I'm going to walk in calm and relaxed. I'm going to go talk to, Susie and Mary. I haven't seen them in a while. I'm going to have a conversation with them. I'm going to really enjoy connecting with people. I might have a cookie or I might not. I might have some celery. Maybe I'll hit the vegetables and fruits first, and then maybe I'll drink some water. Then maybe I'll have a glass of wine. Yeah, I don't know, but I don't know what the specifics of what a person wants, but people very rarely articulate and clarify what they want to do. And they're usually in the process saying what they don't want to do. And that, in a weird way, actually makes it more likely it's going to happen. So anyways, that was a long answer to your question, but there's a lot in there,
That's fabulous that I've never thought to, I mean, for me, it's always trying to give someone a strategy. We go through, are you going to be able to, control yourself, bring lots of beverages, the nuts and bolts of it, but not the mindset of what you just said, even for me, because, I'm going to have a lot of parties coming up. This Saturday, I got a huge one, to walk in calm and to tell because there'll be a lot of alcohol there. I'll be with a lot of people that drink a lot of alcohol, and just to positively reframe how I'm going to feel when I'm there. And maybe I'll have, a glass of wine. I might even have that second glass of wine, but what I'm really there for and what I really hope to get out of this, what a great thing that I would not have done had I not heard you speak of that. So personally, I appreciate that, because that I already feel such a sense of calm, because I'm about to hit something that could, I hate over drinking. I do. I hate how I feel the next day.
Sure.
But it just seems to happen because I don't really mentally prepare myself for that. It's more of trying to be physical about it. Like, full stomach, lots of water, but
yeah. I get that. Like, to that point, let me talk about that for a second, because that was a hard thing for me. So I said, like, I had an issue with the drinking, and I didn't buy the abstinence for me. I was like, I want to moderate it, and I have successfully moderated it. But some of the key things that allowed me to moderate that, and these can apply to food as well, is that we tend to go into it very black or white. You know what I mean? And even what you're saying, even everything you were just saying about like the strategies, full stomach, all this, it's still, there's this deep-seated idea that you're fighting against yourself. Yeah. That if you're not iron willpower, you're going to overdrink, And so it's like, we want to go down to that level and even ask, what would be the ideal me at this party? We just don't do this naturally. And so the ideal me is I'm going to drink this way. And then it gets into I don't want to get too much, I don't overwhelm anyone, but when you go through this process, the real value of it is you start getting into the granular detail that makes all the difference. And so I remember going through this. I said, I don't want to overdrink anymore. And then I would go out and I'd overdrink. That's what's going on. I don't want to do this. I genuinely don't. I keep doing it. And so what happened is, again, I redo technique it, and I started to slow down what I was doing. I realized, holy shit, I'm taking huge sips of beer. So it's like 4 sips and I'm done with the beer and on to the next one. Well, if you're drinking that way, no wonder. You know what I mean? And so I have to fight against not ordering a beer and then sitting there awkwardly with no beer. And now it's weird, so now there's other factors come in. And so one of the things I did is I started realizing, again, I said, if I'm my ideal self, calm. I'm telling you, calm is the secret, because calm's not just an idea and a concept. Calm is you thinking clearly. You literally, speaking of alcohol, when you're stressed out, it's almost like you've had 3 shots of something. You're not the same person when you're stressed as when you're calm. And so when you calm down, you're able to access more of your brain power and you think more clearly, and the solutions kind of just appear. And so I imagine myself going into like a bar scenario, being calm and relaxed. And all of a sudden, naturally, I imagined myself drinking slowly, little sips. I was like, holy shit. Now it sounds so obvious. You know what I mean? Like, I know everyone, oh, no kidding. But it wasn't to me. And I would have never come up on my own, but I imagined myself in this scenario as this calm, relaxed version of me, who I wanted to be. And the strategy just revealed itself. And so then I said, okay, now I can work on that. And then I came up with another strategy. I'll get water too. When I go to the bar, I'll go to water and a beer, and I will sip the beer. And to this day, I still do that, because it wasn't enough for me to say, I'll only have 2 beers. because then I'd be a half hour into the party with nothing to, I'd be awkward, you know? And so if I slowly sip it, that was the solution for me. So I can't tell you, because there's a part of our brain called procedural memory that just goes, first we do this, then we do this, then we do this, and we do this, and we do this. And so as soon as I finish a beer, I order another beer.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So it's like to try and stop myself once the beer is finished is really hard. To drink slowly was way easier for me. And that was the better solution. So anyways, a lot of times the solutions that really make the difference are not the things you're thinking about. You're thinking on it some big, I got to get rid of carbs. That's such an enormous undertaking. And so it's a lot of times it's the little things that reveal themselves and make all the difference, you know, and it's hard to get to them unless, again, this process is one of the best ways I've seen do it. But otherwise, you know, you're thinking about things in the same way, and it's not bringing closer to the goal. But yeah, I hope that helps you out, because you think to yourself, what's kick-ass Melissa? What's Melissa just firing on all cylinders, just feeling like centered, calm, grounded? And I go into a party. How does that Melissa make her way through the party? And taking 2 minutes to think about that's so enlightening, because you will learn 2 or 3 things that you're not thinking about now. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's why it works so well.
And I mean, this is kind of a side note, but even just slowing down on your alcohol or grabbing a little plate of food and really taking your time eating it is going to also keep your guests who want you happy. And if they don't see you with a plate of food or with an alcohol drink in your hand, want to help you and get you another one or get you more food, or why aren't you eating, you know? And so even just to take your time and to keep what you have in your hands, you're not bombarded by, because I'm a people pleaser. And so if I finish my glass of wine, people are like, you need another drink. And they're being so, they go give me another drink. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I drink it too fast. So
that's such a good point too. Cause it's like, I was like that. I've since gotten to the point now. Well, it's like new people. I find like I was in a new group not long ago, and they all brought food. Now I already eaten dinner, and I don't want it. I eat in a structured way because I like it. It's what makes me feel the best. So I feel fine not eating it, and no one said anything to me. But when I'm in with other people, it's like, yeah, I'm a people pleaser too. And so I think there's an aspect of change where, well, I shouldn't be a people pleaser, but you are. You know what I mean? And so it's like, we have to recognize who we are and figure out strategies that are going to genuinely work for us, not just strategies. Like you said, I think that's so important, because it's like, yeah, well, I could just walk around with an empty plate or nothing, but then it doesn't feel good. It breaks rapport, and it's hard to keep that up. So I think that's a very elegant strategy of like having a plate, but like slowly eating it or picking out almost like as a prop. You know what I mean? I do that with the alcohol too. And that's what I mean. Like with the small sips, it becomes like a prop. I'm not getting drunk anymore. And the coolest part is, a couple times when like you actually do this and you go to a party and you're sipping or you're slowly eating, and then you get to the other end of it and you feel amazing. Like Thanksgiving was one. Speaking of Thanksgiving, that was the last thing I ever really got a handle on. You know, because it was one day a year, so that's a harder one. But now it's like Thanksgiving comes and I eat different food. I eat more than I normally do on a Thursday, but I'm not stuffing myself. I'm not over drinking. And I love that now. You know what I mean? Like that's the feeling I'm aiming at, more than just stuffing myself and just getting wasted on food and alcohol. It's much more kind of balanced, and I just like it, you know, and you start to live in this space where this just feels better and it's not so hard anymore. So yeah, but that's a great strategy. I'm glad you said that, because it's not enough just to like know the right thing. We got to figure out what works for us too. That's an elegant strategy. It's a good one.
Yeah. And you've taught me already so much, but especially so with my clients, a lot of times they tell me they don't have the willpower. And so when there is an opportunity for them to, like, say they go into the office and there's just a beautiful display of pastries and donuts and all of croissants and all those wonderful things. And there's that instant to just go and, eat because you're starving. I always tell them to remove themselves from the situation, whether they just take a walk around the building or go to the bathroom or anything, and just kind of take a couple of deep breaths and decide, do they really want that, in the 15 minutes after they've had those foods, are they going to be okay with it? Or are they going to be angry at themselves? And I said, some days you will be okay with it. I mean, everybody deserves a donut every once in a while, but most of the time for your goals, you don't want to have that or have more self-control. And now I know what to say. So thank you. It's like, imagine yourself walking back into that workroom as the kick-ass person that you are, in that situation, calm. I just thank you for that. And I have a personal friend that I've invited to Thanksgiving, and she's back on a weight loss journey. And doing really good right now. And the other day I mentioned again, Thanksgiving, and she says, I don't think I can come. I don't think I can control myself. And so now I feel comfortable with having that conversation with her from what I've learned from you. And I'm going to have her binge watch all your stuff as well.
Good, good.
But is there anything that you can give advice for someone that maybe is caught in the middle of it, as opposed to the beginning of when they're like, trying to psych themselves into being the healthy person that they imagine themselves being? They've, they've started and they're really like in the middle of, 6 cookies looking to grab, 3 more. Is there anything
Sure.
that you help your clients with in the process of actually like, how do you stop the freight train?
Yeah, once it gets started. I mean, once it's started, it's pretty difficult to stop. I mean, to stop yourself in the middle of a binge is almost impossible. I would not waste any energy on that. I think after the binge is where things get really interesting, because what most people do after they binge or choose the wrong foods is they either ignore it, so I'm never gonna do that again, or they beat themselves up about it. But either one is gonna just encourage the same thing to happen, right? Because our brain does what we do, what we did. You know what I mean? Like we learn, okay, so I eat, because binging behavior is very pattern oriented. People binge on the same foods at the same time in the same situations. And what they do at the end of it, again, they either ignore it or they beat themselves up, but they never learn from it.
Yeah.
And I think this is really important, because if you can get to the end of a binge, there's 2 things I like to see happen. In an ideal world, I'd love someone to take 5 minutes after a binge or eating the wrong stuff and just sit quietly with themselves. Mm-hmm. And I say this because it's not a beat yourself up thing. It's an awareness thing. In the program, I always say awareness precedes change. So a lot of people say, that's it, I'm never going to binge again. Yeah, you are, because it happened for a reason. And you have to understand what that reason is. You don't know. It's not because you don't have willpower. We always make the best choice available to us. And so what I will say to people, so the first thing is, if you can sit with yourself and notice the physical, mental, emotional consequences of that binge. Again, it's not to beat yourself up. It's just, how does this affect me physically? I'm so stuffed I can't breathe. My stomach's so big, my lungs are getting compressed. I'm exhausted. I just feel low energy. I just want to go to sleep. Mentally, here I go again. I'm negative to myself. Emotionally, I feel, oh shit, I failed again. I did this again. Again, it's not being yourself. I press the record button. What does this feel like? And then we learn from it. We go back in time and say, what was the state you were in right before that binge? What state were you in? You were depressed, you were lonely, you were pissed off, you were stressed out, whatever. We got to know, because guess what? That's a pattern. And you need to recognize what state you were in, because that's why you did the binging. Again, you binge for a positive reason. You're not binging to hurt yourself. You're binging for, and even if you're doing it to hurt yourself, right? So it's like, what the biggest reason to binge that I see is people over restrict, and they get so hungry they can't control themselves once the food's around, or there's some emotional thing going on, some emotion they don't want to feel, don't know how to deal with, and they use the binging and shame cycle as a way to kind of avoid that worse emotion. And so we got to figure out what's causing the binge in the first place. It's different. There can be different causes of binges within one person. There's different contexts. But let's just say, for example, 8 o'clock rolls around and a person feels lonely, right? And then they binge. And what do they say? They say, I got to stop binging. Please do not stop binging, because then you're still going to feel lonely. We got to understand what's triggering it. Oh, it's because I'm feeling lonely. Great. Now we're a step closer to figuring out what the answer is. How do you want to feel? I'd like to feel connected and loved. Great. What are some ways you can feel connected and loved? I could call my friends up once in a while. I call my family. I could go out to card night, whatever. I mean, there's a million solutions. But people, when it comes to weight loss, people are obsessively problem oriented. They're always trying to figure out why can't I stick to the plan? What's wrong with me? Why can't I ever do this? Why can't I lose weight? Because all my clients pretty much are overthinkers, and they're very intelligent and usually perfectionists. And so they're obsessively trying to figure out what's wrong with them. Yeah. And as if there's some cognitive break that's just going to change everything instantly. There's not. And so what we want to do is we want to get obsessively. That's why my clients get amazing results, because they come to me. I always joke like they're like supercomputers. The overthinking is not the problem. It's what you're overthinking. You're overthinking problems. You're focused and fixated on problems, and you're getting just more and more and more of them. And so if you can shift all that horsepower and aim it at the solutions, how do I want to feel? How do I want to eat? How do I want to live? And you start aiming it at that consistently, it's miraculous. You know what I mean? Because all of a sudden you aim all that horsepower at what you want. this is where the reader rehearsal comes in. It's hard to think in a solution-oriented way because it's literally like creating muscle. You know, right now the solutions neurally are like this. There's no connections. The problems are like this. You can cycle through the problems for hours with no energy because you've done it so well. Thinking of a solution, because I always say, what's the easiest, most enjoyable way you can lose weight? And people just look at me because it's like me saying, how do you say cupcake in Chinese? You know, because there's no neural connect. You don't have a connection for that. So I say, how do you lose weight and master your weight in an easy, enjoyable way? People are just like, there's nothing there. Yeah. And but they have no process to create those connections. And that's what the reader rehearsal does, where it's like, who do I want to be? You know, and it's like you have your first initial idea, but you keep developing. Mind keeps developing. That's what's exciting about it. You know, so it's like that bodybuilding. This is kind of like mind building in a way. You know what I mean? Like self-image building, being the person you want to be. But yeah, so when you're in that binge again, because you have neural networks and the binge network activates and it's not going to stop until it gets to the end. So again, I wouldn't suggest trying to stop in the middle, but the most value you can get is at the end of it, reflect back and start to recognize, because it's a pattern. And if you could figure out a better way to feel connected and loved, to feel entertained, right? Because what are the big triggers? Boredom, stress, loneliness, depression. And so if we can find ways to feel connected and loved, relaxed and calm, entertained and stimulated, that has nothing to do with food, well, now we're resolving the core emotional issue we have without food. And we tend to, that's going to support weight mastery as well.
Gosh. So
amazing,
good.
Isn't it?
Yeah. So good. So I was listening to a behavioral therapist, and she said something that I said I was going to practice it and I haven't yet. And tell me if this is similar to your teachings or like way off. It's what I'm trying to figure out. Is she said that we have obviously the practice of the little voice in our head. We have that little negative voice in our head that's constantly going off. And if you spend, she said, 1 minute a day, and if you can do it for 3 minutes a day, you're a master at it. That any thought that comes into your mind, any thought, you put it in, you find a way to get rid of the object. You put it in an object, you get rid of it. So you put it in a bubble and pop the bubble. You can think of a dating app and you can, swipe it to the right and get all these cute ideas. And I thought to myself that could be beneficial, because we do, how many times we say something negative to ourselves, about ourselves, or even somebody else, just the negativity that we allow to go through our mind constantly. If practicing something like that, is that similar to what you do, or is that not so much?
Well, no, I get the point of it. And it's the idea of giving like a physicality context to a bad idea in order to deal with it, and so I'm cool with that. But the core thing that I like to do, I like little stuff like that, but I think there needs to be a bigger context, because to your point, you haven't done it. You've forgotten to do it, right? That's the problem there, right? So my program, I'm always after practicality. Like I've learned to do this. I didn't learn it from anyone, because no one teaches this stuff. You know what I mean? I'm obsessed with it. I practice it myself, and then I'm on my clients I get to work with. So it's the real world. You know what I mean? And so it's like I have big ideas sometimes that does not translate into real world application. So I'm always testing things in the real world, what's practical. And so to that point, I think you're right on the money with, we all have this negative voice in our head, right? This very, very negative voice. And so back into my world, that's that perfection voice a lot of times. And anytime you measure yourself against perfection, you're always going to feel less than, so it's a great way to feel like shit, is to always measure anything you do against perfection. It's the great way. So I deal with that with a lot of people. And, the worst part is that a lot of times they think that perfectionism is what's caused them to succeed in their lives, and so that they're not quick to let go of that. But so one thing you want to understand neurologically is you can't get rid of old wiring. Okay. So that voice in your head is actually a neural network in your auditory cortex, and it's very well developed, because on top of it being in your head now, it's usually made up of a parent, both parents, disciplinarians you grew up with, and the worst of them. Transactional analysis, they would call this the parent voice. And when it's a negative voice, it's the pig parent. And what happens is in your mind, there's a pig parent that's mean to you, right? Because you ate the wrong thing. It's not supportive and encouraging. It's saying, oh, you did it again. You shitty, you're never going to lose the weight you deserve. Mean. We know how it is, right? And so there's a parent voice, child voice, and adult voice in transactional analysis. And so a big part of what I'm looking to do in Program Yourself Thin, I know we all got this very, very negative voice. And that voice, you can never satisfy it. There's no weight. I remember I had a lady, I've actually certified people in Program Yourself. Then last year I was doing that. And one of the women she used to be a professional bodybuilder. And she competed. And I said, what was it like right before you went on stage? I'm like, you're single digit body, all the rest of it. She goes, I just noticed more things that weren't right. Right. You know what I mean? So it's like, there is no perfection you can get to that voice is just like, well, I guess I got nothing left to say. Yeah, right? It never runs out. There's literally, that doesn't exist. And so it's just this voice that if you think about it, it's like when you do embark, okay, I want to get healthier, I want to eat better. And you're going to make a mistake or you didn't do perfect. That voice comes in and that's usually the process that makes you quit, because it's so negative. So again, we understand neurologically, you're never going to get rid of that voice. A lot of my clients don't like to hear this, but I'm just going to tell you my experience and what I've seen working with clients. That voice never goes away. It can't. So it's going to be there. But what we want to do, in my opinion, what I've seen work very, very well is we want to develop another voice. And we could say this is the adult voice. And this is the voice that, to be honest, a lot of us didn't have growing up. Okay. Again, I love my mom, but this was not her voice. I had to develop this, and I call it now like a coach voice. So this is where you're lucky. Okay. Because you've got a coach voice. You would never talk to your clients the way you talk to yourself.
Right.
Right. Not a million years. And so you're very encouraging and supportive to your clients. And then when it gets to you, you don't deserve that. Yeah. I got to be hard on myself and all the rest of it. And so in my own experience when I work with clients is I'm always consistently looking to develop that adult coach success encouragement voice. And I'm looking to create that neural network so that when the negative one, even now, 30 years into it, the negative voice is still first on the scene. Like it's still there. But what happens is the coach voice quickly comes in and I always think of like a debate setting. And because here's the thing, that perfectionist voice doesn't have a leg to stand on. If it gets most of its power, it whispers shitty things to you from the back and they just destroy you and you just give in to them. And so a big part of what we want to do is we want to take that voice out in front of us and look at it, and it'll say something like, you're a failure. You're a fucking failure. And you bring it out and you're like, am I a failure? I'm not a failure. I'm not a failure at all. I'm successful here. I'm a great mom. I did this business. So as soon as you bring it out to light of day, that other voice can come out. That's not true. So you've got the truth on your side. The perfectionist voice really, when asked to defend its position, doesn't have a lot to stand on, but it gets its power because it's never questioned. It's just back there whispering shitty things to you that affect you. And so what we want to do is really develop this voice. So when we start to feel bad, what's going on here? Oh, the shitty voice is at me again, focusing on all the negative stuff. That's not the full picture. Hold on. This is better. So I don't mind that voice anymore because I just thump it. You know what I mean? In a debate. So that's how I think of it. But ultimately it gets to the core point. So we can use little techniques of putting a bubble, swiping and all the rest of it. Those are fine. But really it's in service. Again, that's a problem oriented solution. You see? Because it's taking, okay, here's the problem. How do I get rid of it? Great. But what are we replacing it with? What do we do then? And that's the part I'm always focused on. Again, Program Yourself, then once we get past motivation, the core of the program is how do you become the person who you want to be? And the truth is, I work with celebrities, like people that are really, really successful. And I say, okay, you lose the weight. Who are you now? What do you want to be? And they're just like, again, it's that, you know what I mean? It's just that lack of connection. So I promise you all, you're almost addicted to the struggle. And it's not that you're addicted to it, but it's what you know. Right. And so we do what we know. And so this is a process of, I always liken it to like learning an instrument or a language. I could sit here, you could read 10 books on how to play the piano. That doesn't mean you can play the piano. The only way to play the piano is to sit down consistently and practice. And every time you practice, you're creating neural networks, neural connections, muscle memory. It's no different with this process. You need to think about this as practicing being the thin, healthy, happy person you want to be. And it's just a little bit at a time, just like muscle building, skill building, anything. You can't just do it all at once. It's not an intellectual, theoretical thing. It's literally muscle memory of thinking and acting like the person you want to be more and more and more and more and more, and you're developing that because you don't know who you want to be. You know how to struggle against your weight. You don't know how to be this happy, healthy person who's just easy. And it's amazing. It really is. Because I look back on it, it's like, it's just crazy. You start to feel, I've tipped the scales here at this point in my life. Cause even up until maybe 5 years ago, I was weighing what I weighed, but it was a little bit of a struggle. You know what I mean? It just felt like, okay, I'm pretending almost, and something's kind of shifted here where it's like, I really, really genuinely feel like I'm this person now. And now it's just exciting because it affects everything in your life, you know. But again, it's not about just the negative stuff, and we're going to do with that. It's always about what's the core thing you're developing, this ideal you that you want to be. That's kind of what I always talk about, the ideal you. Not fantastical, not some version of you that you know you're not, but you being who you are, operating at your best. What is that, you know? And I can't think of that enough. I'm obsessed with that idea. You know?
I think I'm there too. I'm always looking to be how I can be, you know, optimized. And I don't mean just physically. I just mean in my relationships and in my business and all those things. So can this work for, I assume can work for in other areas like smoking, negative Nellies, hypochondriacs, just people who tend to have that either an addiction or a negative mindset in any atmosphere, or always thinking that they're sick. I have a few of those in my life, and I just, you know, it's hard to say, I don't think you're sick this time.
Right.
Let's work on the mindset a little bit.
For sure.
So to close this out, Jim, I've just been floored. Is there anything that you would want to share with the audience? This is a very strange question, probably you've never been asked this before, of things that don't work. I mean, you have such an amazing, it's not just program, but just everything is so important right now. And you've got a lot of solutions. So is there anything out there that you've seen or that you kind of grit your teeth because you see, you know, everybody's putting something out on social media?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I feel that way. I will tell you, I think dieting doesn't work. I think dieting, I always say this, that dieting, most people with the weight loss, you know, listen, you know, when I was in business school, they always said like the pinnacle of marketing was when you used a brand name to describe the product, right? So like Xerox or Kleenex, right? Yes. We just use those words to describe tissues and copiers. And when it comes to weight loss, we use the word diet, right? And people can't separate dieting from weight loss. And so, you know, all the big diets you know of that you're referencing are all owned by big food companies. Weight Watchers was owned by Heinz. Jenny Craig was owned by Nestle. The company owns Atkins Food Products, is the same company owns Auntie Anne's Pretzels and Cinnabon. Company owns Slim Fast, same company owns Ben and Jerry's ice cream. And so I think we have had a 60, 70 year nonstop conditioning by the diet industry to think about weight loss in the way that we think about it. And so I think most people are trapped in a mental prison put there by the diet industry. And I always say the good news is they forgot to lock the door. So you can walk right out of it and start thinking about your weight loss not as a dieter, because it's not the diet. The problem with diets pretty much in general, regardless, right? They can seem different, vegan, carnivore, keto, intermittent fast. It doesn't matter. You pick whatever tactic it is. And every diet, by the way, it's really marketing. Every diet is one tactic because they know the people they're appealing to are overwhelmed and stressed out. So they got to make it seem as simple as possible. I would say it's like a carnival game. You know, it's like they make it seem as just stop eating carbs. How hard is that? Just stop eating carbs. Just stop eating for 16 hours. Yeah. Big deal, right? Easy. And it's, you know, the other side, the flip side of not eating carbs is completely differently. And that seems a little more overwhelming, you know? And so conceptually, it sounds so simple. To get ourselves to do it's a whole nother story, right? Yeah. And so with the diets, I think you've got to stop looking at diets. Now, again, I think that they all have something to teach you. You know what I mean? So I think there's value in the education there. But I don't think there's one tactic alone that's going to get you the results you want. And so I think you need to look at the diets in service of take what works, discard the rest, and realize that the core thing stopping all of you from losing weight is not information. You have to stop focusing on information. You know enough about what you should and shouldn't eat to lose weight. The problem is you do not know how to get yourself to do it consistently. So stop focusing on more information and start focusing on transformation. The diets keep changing. You've been doing this for decades at this point. The diets keep changing, but you remain the same. You know, and this is, again, there's a little bit of tough love here, but if you're really honest with yourself, the truth is, you know, as little about how to lose weight now as before you started your first diet. You know, I get people all the time that I've been trying to lose weight for 30 years, and it's always this all or nothing start and stop, and they're staying in the same spot. It's like being on a hamster wheel. You know? And so I always say, get on the path of weight mastery. Don't try and do everything perfect. Let's get 1% better today than you were yesterday. And we'll do the same thing tomorrow. We'll get 1% better. And by the end of the year, you're not 365% better. You're exponentially better. because there's a great saying that people overestimate how much weight they can lose in a month and underestimate how much weight they can lose in a year. And so that's what doesn't work, is the dieting mindset. It's not, there is no diet coming around the corner that is going to fix this for you, because the specifics change, but the plan remains the same. That it's someone giving you a plan and saying, have fun, get yourself to follow it. And that's what you're missing out on. You have no strategy to get yourself to do it other than willpower. And the willpower is just a temporary, at best, fix. And so you start focusing on genuinely how to transform yourself from the inside out into the person you want to be. And again, you take I intermittent fast, you know what I mean? But I'm not putting that out there as it's one tactic amongst many. A lot of people look at weight loss like it's credits and debits, like a bank account, but it's like the stock market. There's all these different factors that are impacting it. And that can feel overwhelming at first, because you just want, just tell me one thing I got to do and I'll do it, but you won't, you won't. I mean, Christ, how much more evidence do you need? It's been 30 years, you've got to do something different. NLP, I always say, is that like we got our kind of commandments of NLP. And one of them is that if it's not working, do something different, because our brain doesn't like to do different things. And so the diet industry has tricked you by saying, oh, the different thing is, oh, let's try keto now. Okay, well, let's try Mediterranean now. Let's try this now. But they're all the same. If you can see through the dieting bullshit and realize it's always the same plan, I think that's the path forward. Because no matter what you do, if you stop thinking that some diet's going to fix everything, surgery, the medicine, they're not just going to fix everything. They sell you this dream. They call it the false hope syndrome. And that's what they're trying to do. But it doesn't work. And so you got to realize what's really going to change. You have to approach like if you're going to learn an instrument or a language. I know that's not sexy because we just want to change like that. But that's the beauty of what I can do. I love what I do. I have the Robin Hood model. So people pay me very well to work with them, and I'm able to get out here for free and just say the truth, which I don't see a whole lot of in the weight loss world, because everyone's trying to sell you dreams that are not real. 80-95% of people don't lose weight on a diet. So there's got to be this inside out transformation into who you want to become. And there's got to be more than just a plan. Right. So that would be my long answer to that question.
Oh, I love it. And I love the tough love. Tough love with love.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Tough love with love, for sure.
Tough love with love. Well, this has been super enjoyable. I would love for you to please share with the audience, besides TikTok, which you guys just for sure follow them on TikTok, but where else they can find you, if you have any other avenues that they can look into your work a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. Well, you can always go to programyourselfthin.com. I would suggest go there. I give you a free hypnosis session. It's called the New Thin Me. It's a kickstart session, help you clarify and connect to your dream body, and get motivated in a real powerful way. Usually when people get motivated for weight loss, it's pain-based. They step on the scale, see a picture of themselves, feel like shit, and say, I got to change this. And so this is a nice way, because it feels good. It's relaxing, calm, and you're going to get motivated. You'll start eating better for a few days anyways, just listen to it one time. But then I give you a training, 3 steps to master your weight. Please get that and watch it. That's probably the best thing. It's about a half hour or so. But that's the key thing. I go in more depth with what I'm talking about here and just show you, I give you a new paradigm, a new concept for how to master your weight. And I think that's really helpful, because we always learn through contrast, and you're always just getting the diet message. And so as soon as you see a different way to go about this, I think it quickly brings you to another level. So yeah, you can go to programyourselfthin.com. And there's a link there, free hypnosis session. But once you do that, again, you get the hypnosis session, I give you the training, and then I email you every day. I give you really good stuff. There used to be a program I'd sold, but I just give it away now. And so you get that as well, just to kind of, just a little bit, you know what I mean? Every day, kind of getting your head in the right space, and you'll be amazed at what that can do. It's crazy when your mindset starts to shift. And most people have never even experienced that. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be a struggle. It doesn't have to be difficult. It becomes something you love, and it becomes a lot easier. Yeah. And then, YouTube. I just started getting on like Instagram, Program Yourself Thin, YouTube. You can check it out there. And then the podcast. I do a podcast usually 5 days a week, Program Yourself Thin. And you can check that on all the platforms.
Okay. Well, look at you. You're all over the place. I love that.
Yeah. Kind of new.
Started with my daughter, and she doesn't repost things very often. So when I see her, she reposts something, I'm like, I know I'm going to enjoy this, which I truly did. And you are just an absolute breath of fresh air. That sounds so corny, but I don't know how else to put it, that, I do have, some health and fitness experts, a ton of them on here. And it's kind of always the same message. And repetition's not a bad thing, but you have just completely given me, and I'm sure my audience, a huge mindset shift on the power of the mind when it comes to being healthy. And I can't tell you enough how much it'll be profoundly different for me, because I'm everything you said. I'm an overthinker. I'm a perfectionist, people pleaser. I'm empathetic to a fault. I wish maybe you could hypnotize me to not be so empathetic. It is a problem. And so I care about everything. You know, if I see somebody in the corner of a room, you know, and they don't look elated, I'm like, oh my God. And I focus on that person. Side note, but just for me to mentally prepare myself for any upcoming thing, to just slow down, get in that parasympathetic state, and to remind myself that I can walk in there calm and leaving there feeling like I was the best version of myself, is for me the best gift that you could have given me. So I know that it helped my audience as well.
Look at you. Yeah, you're already internalizing that. You said, that's what I mean, right? Because we always there's always like two hypnotists in our head, you know, the negative one and the positive one. And it's all it is, that we're all doing that. So I always say, like, again, awareness precedes change. So even what you're saying, not only is it positive, but it also, because we're not always going to do positive, but now all of a sudden you feel like shit and you're stressed walking in there, you know why. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I mean. Like some people walking around, they don't know why do I feel this way? And there's a recipe. When you feel like shit, you're running a recipe you don't realize to make you feel that way. And you can change it. I promise you. You can't always make it perfect, but you can always make it better. You know, and so that is such a great example. What you're saying to yourself as you walk in there makes all the difference in the world, you know? So you really get that.
Yay.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I win. But again, thank you so much for being on here, and everybody, you're welcome. You're welcome. I know. Thanks
for having me.
Whenever I do a podcast that I just know is going to really touch people, I'm just, the inundation of messages, and I'm really expecting that with this one. So thank you.
Cool. Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I hope again, because for me, I always say this, I really appreciate having me on here, because for me, weight really is life and death. You know what I mean? Like, it's much more serious to me. And so, I want you to look good in a bathing suit and your clothes, obviously, but I'm way more want you to live as long as you can. You know what I mean? I want you to live as long as you can. I want you to have the best quality of life while you're alive. So that's why I do this. So the fact that you're getting this out to more people, I truly appreciate that, because, I mean, my clients are why I do this. It's just craziness, you know, watching them go from one thing to the other. It's fascinating, because it's not just, it's an inside out transformation. And, fulfilling. Yeah, it really is. It really is. And so the fact that even, you know, your audience can hear this, just to kind of put a few more light bulbs on, you know, I'm thankful that you let me do that.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Well, as always, I hope that you wake up feeling prepared, and I hope you go to bed feeling proud. Have a great day. Wow, we've reached the end. But before I leave you, I'd love to hear from you. After all, it's not every day that someone reaches out and asks for your opinion. And to me, your opinion does matter. So please share this episode with anyone that you think needs to hear this message. And remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. My name is Melissa McAllister. And until next time, thank you for being your own health advocate.